Are you longing to feel connected and not so alone? Longing to be happy and more alive? Badass Counseling is excited to announce the creation of Community Plus, a subscription-based private group of folks just wanting to more closely share their soul journey together with like-minded folks and with me, Sven. For a monthly fee, you'll get bi-monthly live Q&As with me, Sven, giving you a better chance of getting your own questions answered. A private community feed for you to post pictures, successes, struggles, joys, even the occasional cat picture, creating greater connection and help for healing and growth. Random drawings for free small group sessions and drawings for private coaching sessions with me. Priority access to becoming a guest on the Badass Counseling Show podcast. Unlimited access to my DIY video courses, Healing the Soul and Unleashing Your Greatness. And so much more. Community Plus is for people serious about their soul journey who want real growth, real help, real laughter, real connection, and true community. Join us now at badasscounseling.com.
From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven Erlandson, takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Hello. It's great to have everyone here. You have found the Badass Counseling Show, and this is a live taping of a lightning round. Whether you are checking in from Tecumseh, Michigan, or Jacksonville, Florida, maybe Indiana, maybe Nova Scotia, maybe New Zealand, or who knows where, France, Italy, great to have you here. I am joined in studio by my cohorts, whom I love very much and who work very, very hard to bring this show to you. KC is over there in the booth, feverishly working on something, and I've got Rob the Rocket right next to me. Rob, what say ye?
We love you too, Sven, and I am your faithful scout.
Well, lovely. I see we've got folks checking in with questions from all around the world. We've got people from Switzerland and so forth. They just are typing their questions right here, and we're answering them as they get fed to us. So I've got the first one here from Broken and Lost on TikTok. How do you handle a heart that's breaking but still loves someone who says you're too much? How do you handle it? I'm going to assume that you love them very much, so you don't want to let go. But if they're pushing you away, you know you kind of have to. So you're in this stuck place, right? So how do you handle it? To be very, very honest with you, when you have a heart that's broken, maybe it's because of a family member, or you've lost a job that you've loved, or you've had to move away from a place that you love, or, it's just love of some sort. I always tell people that the surest way to let go is to hold on as tightly as possible. And what I mean by that is ultimately what's keeping you stuck in this place here is that you both love the person and obviously you're hurt and perhaps angry at the person. And so many people think, well, if you just focus on the anger, then you can move on. You know what, honey, you just need to get angry and then you won't remember him at all. That doesn't work. Because part of what's keeping you stuck, as you so poignantly state, is that you have a heart that's breaking and love him so much, but he's saying you're too much. So there's the hurt. You've got to flush that out through journaling, flushing out the pain and the sadness of him leaving and hurting your feelings by saying you're too much. But what's really keeping you stuck is the love. You're still holding on to a person because you still love him. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with holding on to someone you love. All right, that is the human sort of animal that we are. We naturally cleave to that which moves us. And to let go of someone who moves us is so hard. So you need to be talking with your therapist, talking with your best friends, but especially you need to put it into words. Journaling, write your ex, write them letters that you do not send. Pour out all your feelings of love and lust and longing and missing them. Pour out all your memories and how it made you feel that time you went for the walk in the park and that time that they, took you on that wonderful canoe trip down the river and all these things. Flush out all the memories and all the feelings. And the more you do that, the lighter your heart will become. The more you will be able to let go and move on. But because you say that they are saying that you're too much, as if to blame you, as somehow justify themselves. And some people will do this. They'll blame you, make you the villain so that they feel comfortable walking away because I'm righteous. I'm good. You're the bad one. So there's likely pain and anger in there, and that has to come out too. All right, next question. Diane on Facebook says, Sven, I feel stuck as fuck in life. That's clever. I like that. How do I push through all the chaos caused in my mind and body from a lifetime of traumas? Honestly, Diane, it is literally no different from Broken and Lost in the last question. Okay? That ultimately it all has to come out. That what you've got is the chaos in your mind and your body from your lifetime of trauma. You don't just have chaos in your mind and your body. You've got all the feelings that accompany those memories. What trauma fundamentally is it's a memory that has an emotional charge or charges attached to it, like electrons spinning around a nucleus, all right? That it has an electrical charge, and that electrical charge gets triggered at times by stuff outside of you. And the more trauma you have, the more charges you have going around inside you, and it requires a massive amount of energy to keep that energy, those charges, that trauma, those memories down. And so if you truly want to heal, all right, and I believe you do, Diane, I believe you wouldn't ask unless you did, you have to go in. As the great Sufi poet Rumi said, the cure for the pain is in the pain. You have to be willing to go into the pain and flush out all the pain, the fears, and the bullshit beliefs you've been taught about yourself. For the record, this is why I wrote the book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup, to literally walk you through this process. You can get it at badasscounseling.com. But there has to be a willingness to go in. And very often when we are stuck, Diane used the word stuck. I'm stuck as fuck, she says, which is wonderfully clever. And she wants to know how she can push through it. You push through it by going into it. When we are stuck, it is because we don't want to go into something. Usually if we're stuck, it's because we don't want to go deeper. We're terrified of all the feelings. We're terrified of all the memories and the thoughts, or we are terrified of the implications. That if I look at the real truth of what was really done to me, the implications are, holy shit, I may not want to have a relationship with this person now. Or the implications are, holy shit, I've been alone the whole time, or whatever it might be. But you have to go into those feelings and begin to flush them out. All right, next. Deputy Dog, Ruthless Life Coach on TikTok says, May 15th, I graduate. You inspired it. Master's Counseling. Come to graduation. Write it in to my assistant. Who knows? Maybe my schedule will have me near where you are, but I want to congratulate you, Deputy Dog, on getting your master's in counseling and going into the trenches to do the work. You're going to do far greater things than anything I've done, and I just admire the hell out of anybody who's in the trenches helping people to heal. I mean that. I salute you. That's just so freaking awesome. All right, next question.
Maybe he can arrange for you to get an honorary degree, an honorary doctorate. What do you think? Dr. Sven.
Yeah, that's just what the world needs. Okay, this is an interesting one. Tracy Cam over on TikTok says, and it's very brief, TikTok is a limited platform where they can only give one or two short sentences, which I actually kind of like. So if you're writing in on Facebook or YouTube, do your best to be like TikTok. But Tracy Cam says, I have competed dreams about having my cell phone. I have competed dreams about having my cell phone, but not knowing how to use it. Dream interpretation is always such a fun little thing. I'm not a big believer in literal dream interpretation, but in metaphor, that everything is metaphor. And so when you're reading your own dreams, I'm a big fan of reading your own dreams, not necessarily because they foretell what is ahead, but they synopsize and help us better understand what was or where we are at. That it's the soul's way of communicating with your conscious brain using symbols and images that only your conscious brain will understand or will interpret a certain way to convey the message. So for instance, one of the things when I'm, my girlfriend asked me, Sven, what do you think of this dream? And I'll throw out different ideas, but in the end, my ideas are simply meant to trigger that which resonates inside of her. We had our house broken into. Somebody came onto our property and beat up a member of our house, and I was out of town, and the person, threatened my girlfriend, threatened a couple of members of the family. About 2 weeks later, my girlfriend was having a dream, and in her dream, there was all this steel, a steel this or a steel that. And the next day, she was talking about her dream with me and steel, and she just kept talking about steel. And then she said, and then it just hit her. She said, the steel. He threatened to come back and shoot me with a gun, and the gun is made of steel. So it was her subconscious conveying to her in something that she would get. If I have a dream, for instance, I'll ask people about colors in dreams. If I have a dream, if I, Sven, have a dream and there is green in it, Green for me can represent somebody being inexperienced. We say if somebody's green, they're inexperienced, right? Green can also represent money, but green can also represent verdant. Green, like the green of springtime. Everything's lush. All right. So everything in a dream has meaning. It has metaphor. So when you say you have competed dreams about your cell phone and not knowing how to use it, I'm betting that there's something in your life that seems simple because in real life, you know how to use a cell phone. Yes, it's all these complicated wires, but you generally know how to use it. And inside there's these wires and there's circuits and there's buttons and there's, whatever. And all the little men in there. I'm just an unfrozen caveman lawyer. But you don't know how to use it. So to me, the metaphor is that something in your life is very complex, but for some reason you don't know how to use it. It's something you should be able to understand, but you can't. And you're stuck because you don't know how to use perhaps that which should be usable for you. There's got to be more to that dream, and it would be fun to go through it with you, but I'm afraid because of the TikTok medium, there's just not enough flesh there for me to dive into it. Rob?
If you interpret dreams as saying everything in the dream is you, she is the cell phone and knows she has all these abilities and knows she can make her life better, but doesn't really know how. That's where you come in.
That's a good one too. I love that. All right, next question. How to deal with a man who is dismissive and defensive when I try to communicate needs. Please help. How do you deal with a man or any person, I guess, who is dismissive and defensive when I try to communicate my needs? How do you deal with? Well, let's assume that you want to stay in that relationship, obviously. Otherwise, you wouldn't be asking this question because you're wanting to deal with. You have to be clear and you have to stand up for yourself at every point because fundamentally what you are being confronted with is a choice. The choice to either back down to his reality or create a reality in which your needs are being heard and honored. Now, clearly, you're in a relationship right now where your needs aren't being honored. They may be heard, but they're not being honored. They're not. Otherwise, you wouldn't need help on how to deal with someone who's dismissing them and defending themselves. All right? So you've obviously been saying this already, and he's not listening. He doesn't give a fuck. So you have a choice. You actually have three choices. One, you can walk away, which I'm guessing you don't want to do yet. Two, you can keep letting him overrun you. And he is overrunning you, right? You're saying he's dismissive and defensive. You're not getting your needs met. You're being overrun. And I know that because your needs aren't being met. Or three, the hardest option perhaps, is to stand up and not back down until he meets your needs. In other words, you have to find your power. You have to find your power and not back down. Those are the three choices. Walk away, keep eating shit, or stand up and refuse to eat shit anymore. And the more you stand up, the more he's going to fight you back. Now, here's what happens. Basically, there's presently in your relationship, you have a power imbalance. He has power over you. He has the power to basically say, fuck off, I don't want to give you your needs. And fuck off, I don't have to listen to you say that I'm not doing enough or something like that. So there's a power imbalance. And when you stand up for yourself, you're escalating your power. And what he does then is he dismisses it and he gets defensive. In other words, he escalates even higher. He's trying to maintain that power imbalance. When you escalate, he gets even stronger. And why? Because he wants to get his foot right back on your fucking throat. And so what do? You back down then. I get many people coming to me and saying that, Sven, we talk about their marriage. Maybe they're thinking about divorce. And I say, the problem is that, you don't stand up to him. Or you don't stand up to her. And they'll say, Sven, I stand up to my husband all the time. I say, yes, you stand up, but then you back down. We have this reality that is not pleasurable for you. And just for the record, folks, I'm not talking about abuse. So let's not go on to the tangent of, yes, but blah, 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 abuse. Okay, we're setting that one aside. What's happening is you stand up, but then when they escalate their power even higher, you are backing down. You're standing up and then you're sitting down. You're standing up and then you're sitting down. All right. And as long as you sit down, when you stand up your rights, if they escalate and you sit back down, now they know they got you. Now they know they got you by the short and curlies, and all they have to do is escalate and you'll back the fuck down. So ultimately what you're confronted with is a choice. Either stay in the relationship and continue to eat his shit and let him have that power imbalance, or walk away from the relationship, or stay in the relationship, but stand up and do not back down. And he's going to continue to escalate and you're going to have to continue to escalate. And very often in these situations, the only time the other person backs down is when they realize you're done and you walk away, or you're in the process of walking away, and then they become all fucking kumbaya because they know they can't change you. They're escalating. That power imbalance hasn't worked. So then they become roses and cotton candy. Now they try to woo you. Now it's the fucking nice to you and they want to hear about you and they're changing and now I'm going to therapy. Yeah, well, we'll see how long it fucking lasts. The bottom line is you have to be willing to stand up for you and not back down, because until you do that, they own you. All right, next question. Go ahead, Rob.
On YouTube, Sven, we have Roxy, who says, I can't seem to get a win. Life keeps knocking me down no matter how much I try and to do positive things. It's hard to rewrite healthy beliefs when I don't see anything good.
Yeah. And the goal, Roxy, is not to rewrite healthy beliefs yet. The problem when we're continually getting knocked down by life, or when we can't seem to catch a break, or we just can't win, or we feel stuck, the problem isn't that there isn't good flowing in. The problem is that there's negative or bad core beliefs inside of you. It's the bad inside that has to come out. It's not the good outside of you that has to come in. And I know you want more good in you, but I guarantee you, no matter how much good you have, eventually the bad will overtake it. Some people will make a life transition and they'll get 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years into it, and everything's good and rosy. And then eventually all the shit that's inside of them rises back up, and it doesn't matter how good the good is, they start feeling fucking miserable again. Okay? And so what has to happen is you have to go inside and identify. Naming the beast is half the problem. You have to identify the core beliefs that are undermining you, because that's where the negativity has come from. You're looking for more good as a way to sort of anesthetize or cure you from all the shit that you feel inside, but it won't cure you. It'll anesthetize you like a drug for a short period of time, but then it'll go away, which is why we have to go inside, which is why I wrote the book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup, to walk you through that exact process. All right, next question. All right. Hero Pursuit on TikTok says, can you share more of what to do if you feel, quote unquote, alone? Yes. When you feel alone, it's the same as when you're feeling any sort of feeling, that the goal is fundamentally to go into that feeling and feel it and write it out and journal it out and write letters to the people who maybe are making you feel alone. The goal is to get the feelings out of you, as well as the fears that go with them. If you're feeling alone, I guarantee you there are fears, right? As well. Fear that I'll always be this way. Fear no one will love me. Fear that there's something wrong with me. But it's also going into the BS beliefs you've been taught about yourself, that very often aloneness or loneliness is caused by some belief inside of myself that I'm unworthy, I'm not good enough, nobody wants me, I'm unlovable. Very often, not always, but very often that's woven in. So what to do is you have to go into it and begin to flush all of that out. That's what the book is for. There's a Hole in My Love Cup. You can get it at badasscounseling.com as audiobook, ebook, paperback, Spanish, and workbook. And we've got a French version coming out as well. All right. I've got one from Messy Jessie on TikTok. She says, how will marriage counseling go? All of a sudden, he made an appointment today. Well, I guess I'm Magic 8 Ball now. You're asking me how your marriage counseling is going to go. All of a sudden, he made an appointment today. I don't really know what you guys' relationship is like, so I'm really spitballing here. Somebody wanting an appointment for marriage counseling is someone who sees a problem that they want to fix. Now, if we assume the person is good, then they want to come into it and be able to express what they feel, and they want you to express what you feel. And hopefully you have a good marriage counselor who can walk you through it and help you get down to the root of who each of you are and express those truths and then find common ground to build your relationship. Now, sometimes when people want a third party, when it's a couple, you want a marriage counselor, a third party. When it's maybe a family, you want a normal counselor, a family counselor, or when it's a work setting, you bring in some sort of mediator. Very often when somebody wants to bring in a third party, it's because they want somebody to listen who will basically get you or the other person to shut the fuck up and so that they can feel heard. Very often when someone's bringing in a third party, it's because they're not feeling heard. They need to get something off their chest and they need you to shut the fuck up, or they need me to shut the fuck up so that they can finally feel heard because they are feeling unheard in the relationship. Without knowing more of your story, Messy Jessie, I can't really tell you how your marriage counseling is going to go or what you might plan to expect. Go ahead, Rob.
On YouTube, we have Erica. This, I think, is a common feeling these days. Let's see. Sometimes I'm sad about bad things happening out there in the world. It seems like the only thing to do is take care of my little corner of the world and make it safe and full of love. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I love what you said there, that sometimes the world outside of us feels so overwhelming. And a lot of folks are going through this, a lot. There's just a lot of turmoil in the world. Not that that's anything new. It's really not. And the older generations will tell you that whether it was World War I, the war to end all wars, or World War II, or even the time after World War II, yes, it was a time of prosperity, but we had more wars cooking. Furthermore, we were in the Cold War. Boy, that'll raise fucking strong tension, knowing that nuclear war is at hand, and people have the weapons, and you have Bay of Pigs, and I mean, there's just so much. All right, it doesn't ever end, but yes, that what's going on outside of our doors is profoundly anxiety producing for a whole lot of people. And as with any feeling, as I've now said a couple of times on this show, you have to get all those feelings out of you. You need to be going into your anxiety and journaling and talking about your therapist. But then you take a turn there and you say, at times I feel like all I can do is worry about my little corner of the world. I'm such a fan of that. That if you feel called to tend to your corner of the world, not just you and yours, but maybe your neighbors or your little town or just your own life and creating joy in your life, there are times when that is what we have to do. My parents used to have a saying, brighten the corner where you are. It's nothing new. We've all heard it before. Brighten the corner where you are, or bloom where you are planted. I very much like that. And while you're simultaneously flushing out the anxieties of the world and perhaps even tuning them out. I don't watch the news at night a lot of times. I just don't want to deal with all that in me. Same reason I don't go to horror movies. I don't want that shit in me. It affects me, all right? I'm kind of a pussy that way. But I just don't want it in me. And I try to brighten the corner where I am. And that brings up one more point here before we go to commercial. And it's simply this, that I don't try to help people who don't want to be helped. I don't try to provide therapy or counseling to people who aren't asking for it or wanting it. I don't try to change a system that is really resisting change. I used to be a pastor, and I wrote several books on spirituality and on revolutionizing religion, but it didn't want to change. And so I was beating my head against the wall. And my father used to tell the joke, my dad was a pastor, but he used to tell the joke when we were younger. He would say, Sven, why does the moron keep beating his head against the wall? I said, I don't know. Why, Dad? He said, because it feels so good when he stops. On that note, we're going to go to a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Okay. Well, you've heard the podcast, you've listened to other people's issues, maybe you've studied hundreds of Sven's TikTok videos. Time to stop lurking, face your fears, and focus directly on the one person in your life who can benefit the most from Sven's experience and insight. Now, that would be you. Just go to badasscounseling.com and order Sven's book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup. Or check out his many video courses. Sven found a way to help himself out of a 12 years depression. It worked for him, and it can work for you too. Check out badasscounseling.com today.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform, and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
All right, we are back with lots of questions in this lightning round. I've got about 3-4 here. I'm going to take zippity zip bang bang. Gabby on Facebook says, during journaling, I have the feels, and then she journals them out, but afterwards there's nothing. Is that normal or not? That's totally normal. That's kind of the goal, is to be flushing it out each time so that you come to this sort of state of stasis or just calm inside. In fact, when I journal, especially during my most intense years of journaling, the decades, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and my head would be going and my heart would be pounding and I'd just have so much inside of me. And I'd journal. And then I'd wake up 4 or 5 hours later, and the pen would still be in my hand, the light would still be on, and there'd be a big pool of drool coming out of the side of my mouth. All right? That basically, by flushing it all out, I had calmed my soul and calmed my mind, fallen back asleep, and had a deep sleep. And that's why I'm a big fan of journaling in the middle of the night, or if you can't sleep, or insomnia. Your soul is wanting to flush shit out. So yeah, that's awesome that you're getting to that place, Gabby. I think that's great. Harriet asks on Facebook, please talk about attachment styles. Does everyone have one? I'm going to be very, very honest with you. I'm not a psychologist. And so I'm not fluent on all the notions of attachment styles. I've heard them. I don't really get into it because I'm not a psychologist, all right? What I believe in is fear. That if people have pretty much everything governing everyone, particularly with regard to attachment, is somehow governed by fear. So if a person wants to change their attachment style or simply identify their attachment style, you've got to name precisely what it is you're afraid of, because that fear is what's driving your actions. So, if you're afraid of someone's hurting you, you might recede. Or if you're afraid of someone not liking you, you might recede. Or you might go the opposite direction. You might put yourself out there. That was always my way. And sometimes when I'm in an uncomfortable situation or group of people, I'll just put myself out there and I'll be, sort of a leader, but, giving energy to other people, maybe be a little bombastic, and then, they'll like me. So it's always what's the fear driving the behavior is really what determines how a person is going about attaching or detaching. All right. Next question is this one. Susan says, is it unrealistic to hold off sex for 3 months to get to know someone? Is it unrealistic? No, not at all. I think it's fantastic. In fact, especially when younger, I think it's smart. Do you have to do it? No, but I think it's smart. What's the fucking rush? If we're going to end up potentially sleeping together anyway someday, what's the fucking rush? And you're talking to the guy who was the king of Rush, okay? And I don't mean the Canadian rock group, though I do love them, Red Barchetta and all. All right, so here's the thing. I met the woman who would be my first wife, I met her on July 12th of 1990. On October 12th, we got married. And literally 3 months the day after the wedding, we found out that she was pregnant. So boom, boom, boom. So this notion of waiting, people tried to tell us, oh, you need to wait. I'm like, fuck that. And we jumped right into it. Am I a fan of waiting now? Oh, absolutely. Why? Because it created a divorce? No, not at all. She's a lovely lady. We've been divorced for almost 30 years. Yeah, I couldn't give a shit. That's fine. We get along great. Mother of my children. Not the point. The point is, what's the rush? So is it abnormal to want to wait a while? No. If you want to go and have sex and the other person is consenting, great. Knock yourself out. Do I think it's better to wait a bit? If you're genuinely trying to develop a relationship, generally speaking, yeah. Whether it's a month or 3 months or, just go with, bottom line is this. In a way, you're almost asking the wrong question. The real question you need to be asking is not, is it, basically abnormal to want to wait 3 months? The question is, what feels right to you? That's the only question that matters. And don't be swayed by someone you may be getting involved with. Don't be swayed by society. Don't be swayed by the shoulds. Are you doing you? Are you listening to you? Do that. Don't fucking listen to me. If what I'm saying doesn't fucking resonate with you people, you're nuts to listen to me. The goal is to hear your own voice, to get your own crud, all the bullshit you've been taught about yourself, all the shoulds that you think you're supposed to listen to, all those external power voices in your life, power sources. Get those out and just hear you and do you. That's what the soul journey is all about, fine people. All right, next.
I wouldn't put a time limit on it either. I wouldn't say, okay, after 3 months, we're going to do it.
No.
Wait till it feels right.
Exactly. Well said. Good. And that's the perfect follow-up. Very well said, Rob. I've got Stacy here who says, I have a hard time starting your book, Sven. There's a hole in my love cup. I'm still really angry. How do I begin? Well, a few things. You don't want to begin and all. The anger is great. The anger is good. Journal about your anger. Journal about how fucking pissed you are. But more often than not, if someone's not wanting to start the book, it's because they're scared. I get a lot of people saying, Sven, I ordered your book. It's been sitting on my bedstand. I haven't opened it. Sven, I read the introduction and I had to set it down. I haven't opened it in 3 months. It's fucking scary. My book is going to kick your ass. It is, if you have the courage to do the journaling exercises and do them in writing. And and the bottom line is, Stacy, you're having a hard time starting the book, so don't start it. It's okay, Stacy. Wait. When it's right, you'll know. And that's one of the chapters in the book. Go into the book and read the chapter titled, You'll Know, okay? Read that one. And sort of the point of that is there's no rush, which is actually the point in the book sort of relates to the last question we had about sex and a relationship and so forth is wait until you know, until it feels right for you, okay? Then it'll be time. And as you all have heard me say a million times before, change will not occur until the pain gets bad enough. And eventually the pain of not healing, Stacy, will drive you into the work in one way or another. All right. Here we go. This is a good one. Atomic Kevin, 42. I like the number 42, one of my favorite numbers, John Gilliam. Atomic Kevin says, is it really truthful if it resonates with me? What if I'm just bullshitting myself? I'm scared to lead myself astray. Okay. And that actually is an excellent question, Atomic Kevin 42. It's a great question. So many people say, well, how do I know if it's me or if it's just my fears or if it's, whatever? The truth is, if you're questioning yourself that way, you haven't done the work yet, and it's probably not you. Okay? Because what happens, the more we do the work of going inside and flushing out the pain, the fears, and the bullshit beliefs you've been taught about yourselves. All right. Until you get that out, you don't know your ass from your elbow because you've got so many other voices inside of you. The voice of society, sure, but the voices of the most powerful people in your life, which is usually the people who raised you, and the messages they taught you about yourself, whether or not you're wanted or unwanted, wantable or unwantable, good enough or not good enough, loved or unloved, worthy or not worthy, and whether or not you matter or whether or not you don't matter or you just matter to fulfill a purpose for whoever has the power. And until you get those voices out of there, you can't hear your own voice. But the more you get them out, bit by bit, more and more, the more you begin to have a sense of calm, Kevin. So you're saying, is it really truthful if it resonates with me? What if I'm bullshitting myself? I'm scared to lead myself astray. There's an anxiety in what you're saying. Totally understandable, right? But that anxiety doesn't exist after you've done more and more of the work of getting those other voices out of you, as well as the fears that go with them. The more you get that shit out, the more your answers come from a place of calm. Folks, if it doesn't bring, if the answer doesn't bring either calm or exuberance, it's not you. That's really a simple little metric. Isn't it an absolute? No, but it's pretty goddamn close. That if your response doesn't bring a feeling of either calm or exuberance, it's not you. It's someone else's voice. It's some other should that you are responding to. Some voice that is inside of you that needs to come out of you because it is still running your life. All right, next question. We have, here we go. Rizzle Me This says, are you a bank loan? Because you've got my interest. Okay. No question there, but it was just so well played. How do you not read that one? All right. I like that. Here we go. This one is actually similar. We've got a lot that are sort of in the same thread today. Dan the Terrible says, I'm not a fan of being alone or losing what I have, but I'm not happy with my relationship. The first thing I would ask you, Dan, if you and I were face to face, is I would ask you, what is the single biggest thing in your relationship that you are unhappy with? Write it down on paper and write it in one motherfucking sentence. In one sentence, write down what you are most unhappy with in your relationship. Be as crystal motherfucking clear as you can, no commas. One sentence. Secondly, I would ask you, what is it about being alone that you are most against, that you most dislike, or that you most fear, or would be the most painful? One sentence. All right? You need to get clarity because the way I'm reading it, Dan, you're not a fan of being alone and losing what you have. You state that, and then you say, but I'm not happy with my relationship. The way I generally would interpret that with someone that I can't ask more questions of is there's something about being alone or losing what you have that incites fear inside of you. There's something, and usually what happens when we are alone, folks, the reason so often we don't like to be alone or the reason we hold on to relationships that are getting progressively worse is because when this person is here, this person is either pouring love into my love cup or their mere presence feels loving. Because what it does is it silences, it quiets, squelches all of those voices from my past that say I'm not good enough, I'm unlovable, gee, no one's ever going to love me, I'm a loser, whatever it might be. And as long as this person is here, it's a natural counter message to all those voices inside of me. But when that person leaves me, or I lose that person, or when I'm alone, all those voices come rising up and they churn in my head. See, I'm no good. See, I can't even keep a jerk. God, I must be a loser. God, see, I'm no good. Nobody's ever going to love me. See, I can't even keep. All those voices come up and they churn and they churn and they churn in our head. And this is why this work of going inside and identifying and excising, cutting out those core beliefs you've been taught about yourself. Until you do that, those voices are going to torture you when you're alone. Those voices come from way the fuck back there, usually mom and or dad, the two most powerful people in your life, whoever raised you. And those messages are the reason you hold on to a shitty relationship because you're afraid of those voices and those messages coming churning back up. Next question. Okay. So you got to go into it basically, and you got to begin to flush those voices out. You got to begin to identify them. Again, that's what the book is for. There's a hole in my love cup. All right.
And quickly, Sven, Heidi followed up. How do I speak to you one-on-one?
Oh, if you want to speak to me one-on-one, if you want counseling, go to badasscounseling.com. Read the counseling page. Do not reach out to my assistant on the contact page until you have read the counseling page. Everything is explained there. and then reach out to my assistant. And you also need to get a copy of the book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup. It's required reading for all of my new clients. You don't have to have it done, but you need to be engaged in it. Also, if you are wanting a supportive group, we have a free support and growth group on Facebook called the Badass Counseling Group. We have about 40,000 members. Or if you want a more intimate experience with more resources, more opportunities to interact with me, and greater connection, go to Community Plus on the Badass Counseling website. Again, that is Community Plus. It's recently launched. It's very powerful. It's fantastic. So many fucking opportunities in there. We have random drawings for free group counseling with me. We have random drawings every month for one-on-one counseling, et cetera, et cetera. Lots of stuff there. All right. I like this next question here. Mike Hart on Facebook says, if I've been married for 32 years to my high school sweetheart, but never dated before her, I was too shy and was just settled and too nice to leave. I know my worth. I never went after the girl I really wanted. Help me, please. She's been with the same person for 32 years, never dated before her. I was too shy, and I settled, and I was too nice to leave. I know my worth. I never went after the girl I really wanted. Help me. You wouldn't be saying all of this, Mike, unless you're unhappy in your present relationship, and likely that unhappiness has been going on for quite some time. You even say you settled and too nice to leave, which implies you want to leave. So that tells me that when somebody says they're too nice to do something that they know they most want to do or need to do for their own self, it says to me that you have voices inside of you, Mike. You have voice inside of you saying that your voice doesn't matter, your wants don't matter, your needs don't matter. I guarantee it. I guarantee it, Mike. And until those voices come out of you, you're not going to have the courage to leave. You're not going to believe that you're important enough to justify standing up and ending something. Or what's going to happen is the pain is just going to get so fucking bad, you're going to walk away without doing the healing work. But then you're going to go into the next relationship with all of those same attributes that caused this relationship. You're going to carry them into your next relationship. And you will have another relationship if you choose to walk away. You will. I guarantee it. All right? But the bottom line is the past has to heal, because it's the past. It's those messages inside of you that are responsible for half of this shitty relationship that's just not feeding your soul. Dude, I would strongly recommend that you get the book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup, because it will walk you through the process of identifying, naming, and getting those voices out of you so that you can finally begin to find your own inner strength and sense of worth. And then you'll have the courage to do this, and it will help you execute that process as well as the Facebook group Badass Counseling and Community Plus on the website, badasscounseling.com. All right, we're just going to take one or two more questions here, and then we're going to call it a night. Kansas Jess asks, how do we ask questions on your live? Just type it right where you just typed, how do we ask questions on your live? I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm just letting you know, because we had somebody ask the exact same question over on Facebook. How do I submit a question? And so the answer is just type it where you said, how do I submit a question? Here we go. Loretta Walmsley, in response to what I just said a minute ago, says, we have to face ourselves. That is why we don't like being alone. Actually, that's partly true, but it's not really true. Loretta, what we really have to face is the voices inside of us that are not ourselves. We long to connect to our authentic self, but what blocks you connecting to your authentic self, your soul voice, as I call it, what keeps you from listening and connecting with your soul is all those other voices. We don't like to face those other voices. And so many people think, well, I don't want to, confront my mom and dad, so I don't want to look at any mom and dad shit inside me. You don't ever have to confront your living, breathing parent. I don't need you to confront them in order for me to heal you. I tell my clients this all the time. You don't ever have to change one thing about your relationship with your living, breathing parent or with your dead parent. You don't have to change a single thing. I want to change your relationship with the voice of the parent that resides in you, the voice of your parent from your childhood. That voice has to be slayed. And that's what you have to face. And very often it's the ugly truths that go along with this, that maybe I wasn't loved to begin with. Or maybe it's the ugly truth that I've been alone the whole time. Or maybe it's whatever the ugly truths are. Or what they taught me was bullshit. Or that they taught me that I'm unlovable, or whatever it is. That's the stuff we don't want to face, and all the feelings that go with it. It's not ourselves per se. But I do get your point, Loretta. All right, next question. Jess then piggybacks sort of on this. Jess over on TikTok says, I'm alone. That's my life. I have no friends, no family, no nothing. How do I rebuild? You rebuild not by rebuilding. You rebuild by going down where that building was, metaphorically speaking, and clearing out all the rubble, clearing out all the bad bricks and all the stuff, and burning the wood that's no longer usable, et cetera, et cetera. In other words, the way we rebuild something is by identifying what the core problems were that created this situation to begin with. Going down into the core beliefs that you've been taught about yourself. Again, this is what the book is for. There's a hole in my love cup to walk you through this process. In other words, you're not ready to rebuild yet. You have to go in and identify the pain and the fears and the bullshit beliefs you've been taught about yourself and get those out of you, because that is what is obstructing your rebuilding. That is what is causing your fear. That is what is causing all of your pain inside of you. And that shit, once it comes out more and more, your rebuilding, it will become evident. You want to know why? Because your authentic self is in there. Your authentic calling, the people you want to live around, the geography you want to live in, the path you want to pursue with your life, or just what you want to do on your Saturday afternoons, all of that is inside of you. And until that other crud comes out, all that other crud is packed on top of the authentic you. That's why we have to get all those other voices and fears and pains out of you. All right. I'm going to ask one more question. Rob, have you got one? You look like you do.
Just a comment here that I find interesting from Mercy Faith. First, she says, oh, those old voices deeply instilled, Lord help us. But then she says, you all are so amazing. Inner child healing.
It is inner child. Nice? Yeah, that was really sweet. Thank you so much. Rosie, was it?
Mercy.
Thank you. That was really sweet. Yes, this is inner child healing. In fact, my book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup, has been in the top 10 international bestsellers on Amazon, specifically in the field of inner child. Top 10 for, I think we're at about 58 weeks, 57 weeks, something like that, for inner child. The title is There's a Hole in My Love Cup. It is available at badasscounseling.com. The audiobook version is only available at badasscounseling.com, but you can get all of the versions there, the Spanish, the ebook, the paperback. We have a French version coming out in the next probably month or several weeks. Also the workbook, etc. So I said one more. All right. Oh, Christy is going through ART. Good for you. Good. Keep it up. But you still have to keep giving words to all the feelings and memories you're releasing. I get people who come to me who have done EMDR, who have done ART, who have done ayahuasca, who have done psilocybin, and maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's a year later, but they slide back because in the end, the core beliefs haven't been identified and rooted out. So I'm glad you're doing both, Christy. That's really good. Tracy asks the question over on Facebook. She asked the question, how can you break the connection with someone who doesn't see their toxic behavior? If they don't see their toxic behavior, that implies that you can only break it if they do see their toxic behavior. Because you're saying, how do you break it? Well, just fucking walk away. Say, listen, I'm done. I got to get out of here. I don't want a relationship with you, and then go. No, you're asking something different, because the truth is, if they don't see their toxic behavior, in a way, you know you got to walk away, and so you end the relationship and do what you got to do, okay? But how do you break a relationship with someone who doesn't see their toxic behavior? If they did see their toxic behavior, you likely wouldn't want to break it. If they did see their toxic behavior and acknowledge it, you'd likely want to stay. So the fact that they don't see their toxic behavior is the reason you want to go. So at that point, shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. You got to just put the pieces in place necessary for you to get the fuck out, because clearly it's sucking the fucking life out of you. Kim gets the last question of the night. I haven't even read the whole thing because it's long, but we're going to do it. My boyfriend was amazing when we started our relationship. Now, after 2 years, I don't feel like he loves me or wants to be around me. But I don't know what changed to cause this. I keep asking what I did wrong, but I get no answers, so I ruminate on it. What should I do? Okay. You got a relationship. It was great. And then now he doesn't want to be around you. And you don't feel the love coming from him, but you don't know what changed. And you say, I keep asking what I did wrong, but I get no answers. So clearly he has no interest in solving the problem. See, if you're in a relationship where two people want to create a great relationship, two people are communicating, two people are sharing their needs and wants, two people are listening, two people are feeling heard, two people are busting their balls to meet the other person's needs and stand up for their own needs and meet their own needs. But you don't have that. You have someone who's clearly not interested. It's abundantly clear. You're literally stating that. Okay, so honestly, what do? The thing you don't want to do, which is walk away, because you're in a relationship with someone who isn't treating you lovingly and who doesn't want to communicate and doesn't give two shits about your needs. But the problem I have with what you wrote, the problem I have, Kim, is you say, I keep asking what I did wrong. You're assuming that you're to blame for the relationship being this way. What if he's just being a dick, which he clearly is if he won't even talk it out, right? Why is he even in a relationship if he's not willing to talk about the needs and problems that either he's having or his partner is having or both? That's not someone who wants to be in a relationship. That's someone who is happy to keep you around lightly because you're meeting some needs of his. He gets someone who wants him and wants him. Maybe you meet other needs. Maybe you're paying some of the bills, or maybe he just likes having you around because he knows that when he needs a little bit of love or someone to say something nice or somebody to want him and beg his mercy, that he can use you for that while he's probably looking in a new direction or potentially looking in a new direction. But if you are assuming that you did something, isn't it interesting? You say, I keep asking what I did wrong. And the reason you're asking that is because you want him to bring it out so that you two can solve it and you can get the love back. You're wanting to know what's wrong so that you can get the love back, but you're assuming, Kim, that you did something wrong and you have no evidence to support that, even though the inner logic goes, well, I must have done something wrong because now he doesn't want me anymore, unless he's the problem. See, so many people do this with regard as children, that if I'm not getting the love from my parents are good and loving, so if I'm not getting the love, I must be the problem. And the parents are happy to condition you to believe that. So then that young person will go into childhood and adulthood, thinking I'm the problem, when they never were to begin with. Who the fuck, what child is unlovable? What child is the problem such that they don't deserve love? That's just bullshit. And I'm willing to bet it's bullshit in this case, Kim, because you've got someone who doesn't even want to talk it out. I'd bet my left testicle, if Vegas were giving me odds, that you're not the problem in this case. You're trying to solve it. All right, you may be part of the problem, but you're acting as if you are the problem. And whether it's this relationship or the next one, that one has to be solved, Kim, because otherwise you are taking an inordinate amount of heat and responsibility for the failure of your relationships, when in fact it's two people. You need to read the book. There's a Hole in My Love Cup. Get it at badasscounseling.com. It's going to walk you through the process of healing this. Again, there's a Hole in My Love Cup at badasscounseling.com. There are do-it-yourself video courses there. We also have a free support and growth group on Facebook, the Badass Counseling Group, 40,000 members. We have a more intimate group, Community Plus, greater resources, greater opportunities to get counseling for free and so forth at badasscounseling.com. Yeah. So guys, this has been great. It's been awesome. Rob, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, Neil Young wrote the song Only Love Can Break Your Heart. But much earlier, Gene Pitney wrote, Only love can break your heart, only love can mend it again. That's my final thought for the day.
I like that.
Don't treat anybody like gold who isn't treating you like gold.
Yeah, and the idea of only love can mend it again, I would offer that in the end, it has to be your love of yourself, that you care about yourself enough that you go inside and you get out all the bullshit messages you've been taught about yourself and also flush out all the pain. You have to love yourself first, not just by saying, oh, I love me, I love me, I love me. Now what? No, you love yourself enough to heal the wounds from your past, and then everything changes. Everything fucking changes, and you begin to change your relationships and your career and just how you see yourself and how you walk in the world, because you've gotten out all the crud inside that's been chewing you up from the inside from the beginning.
That's great insight. Only love can mend you again. You got to start with the love for yourself.
I think.
I love it.
I love it.
So to speak.
All right. We have just crammed the word love into about 27 sentences all in a row.
Peace and love, dude.
All right. Yeah, go get it, Kim. Go get it. All right, this has been great. This is all the questions we have time for this evening. It has been a full day out here on the East Coast of the United States, whether you are checking in from Scotland or from New Zealand or from Canada or our friends in Romania and France and Italy. It's just great to have you here. Thank you so much. Again, badasscounseling.com. All of the resources are there, including Community Plus, Badass Wisdom, the book. There's a Hole in My Love Cup. On behalf of my team here, KC over in the booth and Rob the Rocket sitting next to me, have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by two-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.